Today, our topic is the Stoic view on facing your fears. Life is full of challenges, and fear is one of the most common emotions we all experience. Whether it's fear of failure, fear of the unknown, or fear of losing something important, these feelings can hold us back from living fully. But the ancient philosophy of Stoicism offers a powerful way to deal with fear. Stoicism teaches us that fear is not something to run away from, but something to face with courage and understanding. The Stoics believe that fear often comes from our own thoughts and perceptions, not from the things themselves. This means that by changing how we think, we can change how we feel. Let's explore how Stoicism can help us face our fears and live a more peaceful and fulfilling life. First, it's important to understand what Stoicism is. Stoicism is a philosophy that started in ancient Greece and was later developed in Rome. It was practiced by people like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius. These thinkers believe that the key to a good life is not in controlling what happens to us, but in controlling how we respond to what happens. They taught that we cannot always change the world around us, but we can always change our attitudes and reactions. This idea is especially helpful when dealing with fear. Instead of trying to avoid things that scare us, Stoicism encourages us to face them head-on and see them as opportunities for growth. One of the main teachings of Stoicism is the idea of focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we cannot. This is called the Dichotomy of Control. Imagine you are afraid of speaking in public. The Stoic approach would be to ask yourself, what can I control in this situation? You can control how much you prepare, how you practice, and how you choose to think about the experience. But you cannot control how the audience will react or whether they will like your speech. By focusing only on what you can control, you reduce your fear because you realize that much of what you worry about is outside your power. This shift in thinking can make a big difference. It helps you stop wasting energy on things you cannot change and instead focus on what you can do to improve the situation. Another important Stoic idea is that fear often comes from our imagination. We tend to imagine the worst-case scenarios, and this makes us feel anxious. For example, if you are afraid of losing your job, you might imagine being unemployed, losing your home, and feeling like a failure. But the Stoics remind us that these are just thoughts, not reality. They teach us to question our fears and ask, is this really going to happen? And if it does, can I handle it? Often, we realize that our fears are exaggerated and that we are stronger than we think. The Stoic philosopher Seneca said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. By learning to separate our fears from the facts, we can reduce their power over us. Stoicism also teaches us to accept the nature of life. Life is unpredictable, and bad things can happen to anyone. The Stoics believe that instead of fearing these possibilities, we should accept them as part of being human. This doesn't mean we should be passive or give up. It means we should stop resisting the reality of life and instead focus on how we can respond with strength and wisdom. For example, if you are afraid of getting sick, the Stoic approach would be to accept that illness is a part of life and focus on taking care of your health. By accepting what we cannot change, we free ourselves from the constant worry and fear that come from trying to control everything. One of the most powerful Stoic practices for facing fear is called Premeditatio Malorum, which means the premeditation of evils. This is the practice of imagining the worst-case scenario and thinking about how you would handle it. At first, this might sound scary, but it is actually a way to reduce fear. By mentally preparing for the worst, you take away its power to surprise or overwhelm you. For example, if you are afraid of losing a loved one, you might imagine what life would be like without them and think about how you would cope. This practice helps you realize that even in the worst situations, you have the strength to carry on. It also shows you that many of the things you fear are not as terrible as they seem. Another Stoic practice that helps with fear is gratitude. The Stoics believe that focusing on what we have, rather than what we lack, can help us feel more content and less afraid. When we are grateful for the good things in our lives, we realize that we have more resources and support than we thought. This makes us feel stronger and more capable of facing challenges. For example, if you are afraid of financial problems, you might focus on the skills and relationships you have that could help you find a solution. Gratitude just shifts your attention from what you fear to what you can appreciate. And this change in perspective can make a big difference. Stoicism also teaches us to see fear as a teacher. Instead of avoiding fear, we can use it as a way to learn more about ourselves and grow. Fear often shows us where we need to improve or what we value most. For example, if you are afraid of failure, it might mean that you care deeply about doing well and achieving your goals. Instead of letting this fear paralyze you, you can use it as motivation to work harder and prepare more. The Stoics believed that challenges and difficulties are opportunities to become stronger and wiser. By facing our fears, we develop courage, resilience, and a deeper understanding of ourselves. It's also important to remember that fear is a natural emotion, and it's okay to feel it. The Stoics did not say that we should never feel fear. Instead, they said that we should not let fear control us. We can feel afraid and still choose to act with courage. This is what true bravery is: not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward despite it. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This means that even when we feel fear, we have the power to choose how we respond. We can let fear stop us, or we can use it as a stepping stone to grow and achieve our goals. Finally, Stoicism reminds us that we are not alone in facing our fears. The Stoics believed in the importance of community and supporting one another. When we share our fears with others, we often find that they have similar struggles. This can help us feel less isolated and more connected. It also gives us the chance to learn from others and gain new perspectives. For example, if you are afraid of starting a new job, talking to someone who has been through a similar experience can help you feel more confident and prepared. By leaning on others and offering support in return, we can face our fears together and become stronger as a community. In conclusion, the Stoic view on facing your fears is not about eliminating fear, but about changing how we relate to it. By focusing on what we can control, questioning our fears, accepting the nature of life, and practicing gratitude and mental preparation, we can reduce the power that fear has over us. Stoicism teaches us that fear is not our enemy, but a guide that shows us where we need to grow. By facing our fears with courage and wisdom, we can live more fully and become the best versions of ourselves. Remember, fear is a part of life, but it does not have to control your life. You have the power to choose how you respond, and with the tools of Stoicism, you can face your fears and thrive.